So here we are, the marathon is over, 15 weeks of training. We're back to where we've always been, which is the marina, where I did most of my running. I'm gonna do a review of the marathon. I'm gonna take you through the last 15 weeks, all the training, all the trials and tribulations. No, not really. I'm gonna talk you through what went well, what didn't, what I'd do differently, what I keep the same, and really touch on the race day again, because I've had a bit of time to reflect. So let's kick this off. So where do we begin? Let's start with the training plan. I had 15 weeks and I had to make a decision between runner or Garmin for my running plan. In the end, I chose runner, as you guys can remember from the video. It was 4 days of running with the mileage increasing every week. And I think it was gonna peak or top out at 52 miles, which was the week I was gonna do my 32K long run. I also had 3 rest days, and the plan originally was to stick my strength training into those rest days. So I was meant to have 2 days of strength training every week. So that's 6 total days of training. And then that would allow for me to have 1 rest day. So that was the plan. I had that beautiful Excel sheet with everything I was gonna do. And I don't know what happened, but it was a fantastic plan. And I kind of said, 15 weeks, we're gonna be able to get to the marathon. We're gonna be able to do it all on time and get the success that I was chasing after. So that was pretty much my training plan. So I guess the next bit is kind of like what went right. So the first thing that went right was consistency. I was out every day doing my runs. I don't think I missed, in fact, I know I didn't miss a single run. There was one I changed, if you remember, Hannah, there was one I changed that was a 13K run, and instead I did the Burge to Burge half marathon, which we'll talk about in a bit.
Yeah, I was about to say, you figured that was a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. So consistency was key. That was like one of the big wins for me, and it meant that I felt like I was improving my endurance, improving my fitness, and really getting out there. Oh, that's nice.
2
of them. The second thing was that I managed to stay injury-free, which was for once, right? Those who saw the Burge to Burge video, those who watched my videos from last year when I did the London Landmarks half marathon, I didn't stay injury-free. And so this time around, I mean, there were some niggles, but the fact that I managed to do all my training with no injuries was quite key for myself. The third thing that worked really well was I learned to prep and fuel my runs. I used to be that guy that just goes out and runs, right? And I don't think about fueling, stretching, my sleep, my nutrition. Drinking water, exactly. So I learned to do all that stuff. I started prepping for my runs, fueling myself properly, doing the right things, lots of stretching, lots of prep, making sure my nutrition was spot on. So that was really good. And number 4 was, once I discovered the best shoes for me, I used those shoes over and over again. I stayed consistent with the shoes. I didn't chop and change. I wasn't in a place where I didn't have the right shoes for each run. I made that decision. I'm gonna use the CloudMonsters, right? So it's either gonna be the Hyper or the CloudMonster 2, and those were the only 2 shoes I ran in for the rest of my training program. So let's move on to the things that went wrong. I think the first one was, we talked about this earlier, doing the Burge to Burge half marathon. It kind of knocked my confidence a bit. I had a slight injury on one of my toes. I ended up with a black toe, which hurt, but I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have been putting in 21K in race conditions that early in the training program. So that was a very bad idea. Talking about confidence, that's number 2. My confidence was knocked by that, and it never really recovered. So every time I had a long run, I was seeking that confidence of, can you give me back what I need to do these really long runs? I started comparing everything to the Burge to Burge. So if I did 15K, I started going, oh, that's 6K less than the Burge to Burge. It really messed things up for me. And that's something I learned from that didn't go right. I'd never do race conditions that early in training. Another thing that went wrong, planning for the heat. I should have trained in the heat. I'm in the Middle East. It gets really hot. Now, I'm not saying I should have been out there when it's 40 degrees, but I should have embraced those 25 and above runs and done as many of them as possible. Instead, I kind of avoided the heat. I was out before the sun came out with Hannah. And so on race day, the sun came out at the marathon, I struggled. There was a couple of runs here in the Middle East where the sun came out and I struggled a bit, and that stayed in the back of my mind. And I think that is a bit connected to the confidence piece, which is a bit of a shame. The final bit that didn't go well was somewhere in all this, I dropped the strength training around week 8. I just stopped doing strength training. There was a lot going on with work. My calendar was busy, and I said, my running program is the most important, so I dropped the strength training. I think that had an impact. Strength training is key. It's good for your mobility, strengthening your calves, your hamstrings, your ankles, and I lost all that. So I guess before I get to what I'd do differently or keep the same, I'm thinking about the race day. I think first thing, I arrived the night before. That wasn't ideal.
Not really.
Exactly. And I didn't get any sleep. I didn't sleep, no sleep at all. So that wasn't great. Then I got to the race, there was all the noise, the commotion, which I kind of struggled with. I was struggling with the noise, I was struggling with the commotion, I was struggling with everything that was going on. And then the heat showed up. So the heat was a bit of a problem. I think that was for everybody. I think everyone found the weather quite surprisingly warm, and it was a struggle. There were lots of people not hitting their time. So for me, I think that was an issue. Then you've got the fact the pace didn't show up. So I just never found the pace at any point during the run. It just never happened for me. At the halfway point, I knew I wasn't gonna do sub 4. So at that point, I was like, I just need to finish, which is a shame. I wanted it to be better than that, but that was the case of the situation. On the bright side, I did finish. I went and enjoyed a phenomenal world-class race, my first ever marathon, my first ever time going to that distance. It wasn't just a marathon race, it was the marathon distance, and I'm doing it at one of the premier marathon races in the world in London. So that was really good. I got to experience a world-class event. I know I did the London landmarks the year before, but this is just a cut above, I must say. And then finally, I got an amazing medal. When we hung the medals up yesterday, I could see the difference just between the marathon medal and all my half marathon medals. It was just a cut above.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't look very nice now.
Yeah, exactly, right? The other medals now look kind of a little bit cheap, but yeah, it felt great. So those are the positives. And now on reflection, I'm very pleased that I did it, and I'm very proud of myself. I'm trying to think what I'd change. I would do 20 weeks instead of 15. 15 is the absolute bare minimum I think you can get away with. I would do strength training for the entire duration of the training program. I think missing the strength training is a bit of a problem, and that's something I shouldn't have done. The other thing I'd do is ensure that I incorporated fast runs. I didn't have a lot of fast runs in the runner program. There were some intervals and tempos, but I like my fast runs. I'd have more of those sort of 10K at tempo paces. I'd train in the heat more because I avoided the heat, and I think that caused me a problem. So I would get in the heat a bit more, get used to different weather conditions, different levels of undulation, elevation, etc. And then finally, the last thing is I would plan my race day logistics. Look, I've got the excuse that I was well planned for this event. I'd booked my flights weeks in advance. Then my work trip came in, then my work trip got cancelled, and suddenly I needed a flight to London at the last minute. But I will plan my race day logistics a lot better. And those are the things I'll do slightly different. It's so hot now. What would I keep the same? First one, finding the shoes and sticking to them. I would definitely keep that the same. That worked for me. The structured training plan from runner, from wherever you get your structured training plan, so important because it keeps you consistent. I would definitely keep that the same. Incorporating the long runs every week, knowing I've got this long run that is the end of my week, that is important. So I'd always have the long runs. And then finally, company, having Hannah running with me. I'm an introvert, as I've said many times, and I thought I'd prefer to just go off on my own and do my thing for 15 weeks. But you were there every morning running with me. And there were parts of the run where I had to go off on my own because of the paces I was doing. And so I did get my alone time, but honestly, the company was something to look forward to. So I wouldn't change that. That's so important to just keep my spirits up, when it was getting a bit monotonous.
Aww.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna leave you guys with a quick video recap of the last 16 weeks of training. For those of you who couldn't get to watch all the videos, there's a montage for you to enjoy and celebrate the moments with me. and so we're off home. So chat to me in the comments, hit the like button if you enjoyed the video, hit subscribe and follow my channel, click that bell icon so you're notified whenever I post new videos, and I'll see you soon. Take care.